expected.
Right? Those two drivers were so even, both with a great opportunity to possibly win that race at Montreal, but took it out of
That was too loud.
Win for Danson for a second in a row. He ends up getting that points lead. But to your point, John,
how much time do I have left? Not much.
That's the one
3 minutes.
has won at so far this year. And again, back at a short track and under the lights again here tonight at Iowa gives him a real good opportunity to punch back.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good opportunity for Freenage, but I also think it's an opportunity maybe for some of these other guys down the field, like Dominic Howe, still in third in the points, is proving how important that win really was. He's still third in the points, and he's only 25 points behind Freenage. So if Danson and Freenage struggle, or if there's a little bit of calamity involving those two, it could be an opportunity for a lot of these guys. You can see how close it is from third on down. There's only 25 points separating third from 10th. So I still think it's anyone's game, but Danson and Freenage, if they stay at the front,
I think we're close. Just gonna go one more time, turn it down a few notches.
Tonight, as I mentioned, 2 wins for Danson and then 1 apiece for Freenage and Howe.
Okay.
Can we see a Cato,
that's fine.
Araya, some of those top drivers from the Cup Series, the Trudells and others, the Everharts, get into the conversation? And, you know, maybe if you're David Washington, 52 back, or if you're Daniel Everhart,
gotta change the settings.
That 11th in
quickly.
The championship standings, 53 points back. Maybe a bit steep to launch a challenge for the championship, but take wins away from those guys, right? Kind of make Danson and Freenage fight for some more top 5 or top 10 positions and kind of see what kind of effect these other drivers can play. Of course, tonight is round number 5. After this, we will be halfway through this 2021 campaign with only 1 race left this year, as we'll go back next year or next week.
Now I got to get going.
For our first trip there in quite some time, and then short tracks, as you mentioned. We'll go to Lucas Oil Raceway to kick off the new year on the 4th of January.
Still a little too loud.
Road course race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 1 more super speedway at Talladega. And then we'll finish it under the lights in Sin City at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway on Monday, January the 25th.
Green flag, green flag.
Way too loud.
Is coming.
All right, man. Here comes your first time left.
The qualifying session. There will be no bumps this evening. We had 1 driver bumped in the Daytona season opener. 37 drivers on track, which means all of them get an opportunity to start this race. And let's talk a little more specifically about the Iowa Speedway, the 70-mile racetrack. Used to, I guess I should say, play host to NASCAR, Xfinity racing, IndyCar racing, and
1 more lap to go.
It's one of my favorite short tracks on the surface.
It's funny driving by one car, whether it be a Cup car or an Indy car, or what we're driving like the Xfinity Series cars. It's fun. There are multiple lanes you can ride here, and even in the fixed series, you can ride that high line ride mid and way through the corner. And it's just a good old-fashioned Midwest style short track. There's plenty of opportunities to pass, plenty of opportunities for bump and runs. It's going to be an exciting race tonight, and
I don't think that's a good time. Ooh, is that an awful time?
A very different race than what we saw, of course, on the road course at Montreal.
Bad time.
There were no yellows.
Wow.
You didn't have drivers claiming them and dropping at the back of the field. Tonight, that's going to be a factor, but as well, maybe strategy in play.
Oof.
These drivers are limited to 3 additional sets of tires, I believe, down on track. So that's going to be something. If we have a lot of yellows and a lot of 20, 30 lap-ish long runs,
that was awful.
That could be something to keep an eye on. There's a look in at our Race Spot TV onboard cameras. Matt Mara, Gary Weaver, Joe Burgee, Bobby Krug, Ross Cato, and Race Spot's own Dylan Coyle. We'll be checking in with all of them as this race goes on. But the qualifying session has struck 0. Let's take a look at tonight's IRAPS starting grid from Iowa. And pole position goes to Sam Nieto. A 23.992 will lead the field of the green flag alongside Braxton DeWeese for that Sim Performance Group entry in second. Matt Danson, therefore, ends up third with Joseph Tice in the number 4 position. They make up round number 2.
Steve, where's Trevin?
Heavy hitters. Daniel Everhart starts 5th. Andrew Freenage in the number 6
I don't know
spot.
where he's at.
John
I think he's
Ellenberg,
tired
Michael
from
Araya back on row
delivering
number
packages.
4 with Jeremy Miller and Nick Silver, your top 10.
What the hell does he do for work?
Agnel Phillip, who had a brilliant comeback drive at Montreal last week, starts 11th. Kyle Kamer with a 3rd place last week, starts 12th. They'll be looking for another good week for those two. Shane Parrish in the 81 and Joe Berge in the 4 on row 7. Dominic Howe, 3rd place in the points, 15th. And Luzinski in the 03 in 16th. Weinmeister in the 48 in 17th. Ross Cato in 18th. Stefan Argabaye in the 09 in 19th, and Brian Shameless in the 25 in 20th for your top 20.
And halfway through, the likes of Bobby Krug and Sean Kalis, 21 and 22, along with Gary Weaver and Kyle Trudell.
I can't believe my time.
24 positions. James Ross will start from
So
25th,
bad.
and Steve Durham, 26th position. Nick Kamara, 27th. And David Washington with some work to do in position of 28. And you've got Matthew Barr, 29th, and Michael Kaczynski, your top 30.
Yeah.
Just got G2.
Tom Moreno in the 42, and our own Dylan Coyle in the 32nd. He's going to have some work to do through the field. Dylan C. Jones in 33rd. I'll double check scoring to see who's 34th.
Yeah,
It's Eric Stanford, not being showed right now, in the 19 car there. In the wrong place, and Dane Cruz in 36. I believe there's a car missing, and that might be Garrett Hess in the double
anyone else ever had an issue where they keep
everybody else not taking time? So the top 32 take a time in qualifying. 33rd on going to be provisional. So that'll be Jones, Stanford, Hess, so is Sheen, and Cruz. And you heard him giggling there at the very bottom of the charts. We'll check in now with our in-race reporter. Dylan, how are you in queue, and what's going to happen over these 150 laps?
I'm better than that time shows. I'll be honest. I keep having to fix my sound settings since I'm hearing you guys. I'm trying to speak to Twitch. I'm trying to hear the engine, the tires, the drivers in the field. I couldn't hear my tires whatsoever, so I didn't know how much I could actually push at times. So I just went for the safe laps, which made I got positions over the guys who didn't qualify. So dead last when it comes to actually putting a good time in. I love that. Love that for me.
It'll be a good perspective, I think, to look into with you as this race goes on, because there's going to be a lot of traffic out of that front windshield. Best of luck in this one. The lights are out on top of the pace car. We're going to be going green this time by halfway point of the year. Notably, first and second in the championship, Jonathan.
I'm worried.
First and second on the grid, so a little bit of traffic early in this one for Friedrich and Danson. Going to be curious to see how they stack up against Sam Nieto, who looks stout.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. Remember, though, there was a bit of anger after last week at Montreal. We're going to see these guys get aggressive.
Pace car, get it down and in this time. As always, we're happy that you're spending your Monday evening with us here on RaceSpot TV. Field in the hands of Sam Nieto as we say, let's go racing from Iowa.
Got one inside. Stay high. There's the car on the low side. Stay high. All right, man. Caution is out.
And an early caution at the back of the field. Steve Zoa and maybe Garrett Hess involved in this one on the opening lap of this race. It looked like it was the drivers at the very back of the grid, and that is Garrett Hess on the bottom going right through the 75.
I'm not exactly sure. I thought I gave you some room.
It's a lot optimistic over cooking it into one, trying to gain places. Yeah, they're on the back row here. Zero goes up and yeah, I don't think we realized the Sheets car was still there.
I'll tell you what, though. I'm happy that the Sheets car was there now. We never want to see another competitor taken out so early. How's the damage on their cars looking, guys?
I don't think they ended up back into the wall. No, Soa did go back up. Hess is going to be relatively okay. And they're discussing now. Hess thinks it was Soa. Soa thinks it was Hess. But I think it was just the 00 not seeing him there. Too early, I would guess, Jonathan, in this race for that to be, you talked about some of the anger and the frustration from a wild race at Montreal. I don't think that's any of that. I think that's just a little bit of a sleepiness maybe going into the first corner and two cars driving into each other.
Yeah, that's, Iowa's typically, stereotyped for their nice behavior and a nice attitude. That is what we call not Iowa nice.
F.
On that first lap. And yeah, I talked about a little bit of the arguments last week. We saw Braxton Luis and Joe Berge going at it for lap after lap, and
they had to be reminded, by the way, mid-race by race control to not keep taking each other out, because they went at it a couple of times.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if, like, a short track like this on a night like tonight, where it's a night race, it's going to be fast-paced, a lot of passing, and seeing already in lap one, I'm wondering if there's going to be some hot heads.
It's like it's like someone who just
Well, an
goes
early
to the
yellow,
end of
so
the earth
not
to
much of an
please
opportunity for these
a woman, I
drivers
guess.
to get into
That's my
much of a groove or
non
anything. So,
no
it'll
in the
basically be
know
just attempting to
description.
at starting this race. Once we do it
You're a nice
again,
little
no
woman,
changes
as
for
many
position
people say.
in the top 6. Michael Araya
Shut up,
picks
Smith.
up a spot over John Ellenberg, but that was
If
really
he's
just
asking about
the
fan
timing
thing,
over
which
the
actually
yellow
made that against the
when those
rules
two cars
for
were side
whatever
by
reason.
side. And something else to note as well, talking
Because
about that
afterward,
crazy
then he's
race
banned.
at Montreal last week, that a lot of drivers racked up penalty points. So normally drivers are assessed those based on causing cautions, but since you can't do it in a race that doesn't have yellows, for every 10 incident points that a driver got last week, you get a penalty point. So there are currently
Because they have
close to
their
20
priorities are
drivers with a incident point. You need to get up to 6
sarcastic.
before you actually are penalized and miss a race. So nobody in the danger zone, but
All right,
guys like Kyle
$5 a
Kamer,
single
Bobby
ball.
Krug, Ross Cato, and Dylan Coyle with 3 at the top of the board. Just need to mind your
Sup?
P's and Q's in this one. Hi. And David Washington also
All right, man,
on
we're
a
going
3-race
green next
probation
time by.
for some of
All
those
right, man.
incidents.
Line up on the outside row now. Catch
Yeah, you
up,
can't
23.
unfortunately rack
Are
up
we
those
double
points,
or
and
single?
you know, missing races is going to be huge, and we saw last
Double.
week, you know, how damaging. In the
Yeah, I guess
points
double since it wasn't
can be
technically a
finishing up
restart.
rear. That 90 car is almost out of the points conversation entirely after that spin out of the Senna S's last
Imagine.
week and that disconnect. So you got to be here.
Hey, by the way, guys, so a little weirdness in the rule book. Usually on a restart, if there's a crash the first lap after a restart, we go single file. But since it was a start, we're going double file again. But if there was a wreck on this opening lap again, then we'd go single file.
Get ready.
Don't you love technicalities?
Yes.
Every little way that small situations can kind of change things. So we will, in fact, stay doubled up. It'll be a restart with lap number 5 behind us. And now Sam Nieto also with
flag,
autonomy
green
to go when he wants. Green flag in the air. Let's try it again.
Inside. Stay high. There's the car on the low side. Stay high. Stay high. There's the car on the low side.
All drivers high, wide,
Yeah,
and
one
handsome in
inside.
3 and 4,
All
but
clear, all
Nieto
clear.
does lead. Watching a side-by-side battle now with the 90 of Daniel Eberhardt there, and that's the number 1 car up the hill. Joseph Tice give the spot to Eberhardt. He'll go to position 4. The next driver on the move, the 88 car, that's Farinaj, trying to work on the inside.
I want to circle that 44 car, though, already up on the high side, has big momentum.
Oh, we got someone spinning into the grass. Saved it, though.
No yellow, we're okay. That is Stephen Aboge down on the access road there, basically along the front straightaway wall. He was 3 wide in turn 4 when he got turned. Again, no yellow, we stay green. It was a very soft spin there, and he's very happy that there's that paved lane down on the inside fence, or he could have been in the wall. He'll drop all the way to the rear of the field. Again, no yellow, we stay green. Also, housekeeping notes, both Garrett Hess and Steve Sower that were involved in that last incident are in the garage. Their nights are done early.
Another point for Wawa.
Is that what, 3 or 4 to 1?
4 to 1, my friends.
So not locked up yet, but not looking good in the battle between Coyle and Sheets, at least if you're pulling for that Sheets machine. Single filing out your top 10 or so. There's a challenge to the inside. It's Dominic Howe trying to make a move on John Ellenberg.
And we're really seeing right now this top and bottom line competition. Some guys are using that top line really good. Michael Laraya has picked up a few spots already. Nick Silver's also going up there, but it's going to be challenging, I think, to overtake if both lines are coming in really, really well.
And most of the track now, single filing out for the moment, while these drivers try to set themselves up and make some moves. A challenge further up there. I think that's the number 3 of Braxton DeWeese, but a great qualifying effort in this race, despite not being one of the drivers top 15 in the championship. But right now, fighting side by side with the number 1 Machine Joseph Tice for third. Tice is in fact the one challenging DeWeese. DeWeese started second, fell to third because Matt Danson made a move on him. A little bit of different colors on the 05 Chevy tonight. He's in the holiday spirit with that festive 05 Chevy down on the bottom. And you can see when the cars use the top side there, Jonathan, they're not just outside of the cars on the bottom. I mean, they go up a lane or two, and look at DeWeese. He'll split the gap, go to the inside, not only holding off Tice, but trying to make a move on Danson for second.
And he got that draft off of Danson as well for good measure, but this is just making Sam Nieto smile. He's watching everyone fight behind him, and he's just all by himself. The 3 goes up the hill. The problem with that high line is that if you overcook the entrance, you can really, sacrifice a lot of what you worked for in that high line. And I think that's what Luis is doing wrong compared to Michael Baraya.
I'll tell you one thing, though, guys. I just lost 6 or so spots over a course of a couple laps going on the low line, so I feel like the high line is where it's at.
You saw that on our scoring and timing as well. Full running order top of your screen. Here's an onboard look on the right-hand side of your screen. Chasing down the number 44, Lariah. You're on board with Joseph Tice, who started this race 4th. He's down 1, but, I mean, as you mentioned, on the great battle here between 2, 3, 4 cars, however many want to be in it on any given moment, and Nieto hasn't been able to get too far away. But again, as long as these guys keep fighting, we should be good. But now that Danson has held off that challenge from Luis, he's starting to reel him in. Danson better than Nieto, a 10th of a second last lap. This time by the start-finish line, better by a 10th of a second.
Estevito.
I'm
struggling.
Last lap was Matt Danson. So as we fight for third, side by side, Lariah challenging to the inside of DeWeese. We've also got Danson reeling in, your race leader.
Dylan Jones just got into the wall up in turn 2 up high. It's the overcooking that you were just talking about, Jonathan.
Yeah, you gotta use a little bit of brake when you go into these corners. You can't just let it float in. You gotta be calm and a little bit gentle. If you get in too hot, you're going too deep, and it's gonna sacrifice you a lot of spots on track.
All clear, all clear.
And here's your onboard look now, and the in-sim look, if you will, with the Fast Forward Esports entry of Ross Cato, one of our many onboard cameras we'll be looking into it tonight, who's been holding his own, very festive in his own right. On the left-hand side of your screen there, started 18th, rides 18th right now, and is trying to chase down Kyle Trudell, who's been on the move.
Am I just not pushing it? I'm totally not pushing it hard enough.
Only to Gary Weaver, a little bit up the road in the number 15 spot. So when you get passed by somebody who, at least at this juncture, you can say is faster than you, and you can see Cato
being so bad. My God.
Underneath him, you can learn a little bit riding in behind and maybe pick up some things.
Learn your opponent, stalk your opponent, try and find a way around and find which line's better. You can see this mid-pack back here is going to the high side, where I think that front few are still towards the bottom at the moment.
I'm feeling very tight now. I'm struggling mightily right now. Started off pretty comfortably. Now I'm just not finding any grip. I like a loose car, and this is a very tight one right now.
And we're taking a look at you now, riding in the number 34 spot ahead of Garrett Hess, who's rejoined the server. No mention Hess and Soa both went to the garage. Garrett Hess had an issue with his computer, booted it back up, got on track, and he's 14 laps down. Not going to get much more than that, but he does get a single point from Steve Soa, who manually parked the car, and he'll finish 36th out of the 36 cars who actually made the start. Interestingly enough, no Dane Cruz, no Liam Sheen, 2 cars that were here for practice but did not make it to the grid. That's why our field sits at 36 cars. There's Gary Weaver, who I mentioned a little bit ago, was up a handful of spots, and he's rocking the VR goggles tonight in his NVIDIA.
What is with me?
Gary started 23rd. He's up to 17th at the moment, but he's under fire. Cato to his inside. You've also got the 03 Leszczynski in the mix. Kyle Kamer as well. A great mid-pack fight, about 5.5 seconds off of the race leaders.
I can't even turn the car.
Something I wanted to note, bringing up Dylan's point that the cars were going away. Best lap times were 24.2s. The leaders are all in the 25. There's almost a second fall off already, and we're only 20 laps really into the run.
And what are we thinking as look at the 51 car? That was Crew getting pushed up a little bit there by Kamer. Dylan, obviously you're in the car. What are you guys thinking strategy-wise in this race?
I'd be more willing to go for fresh tires earlier with the way this car is driving right now. I feel like, and I don't think it's a matter of me just not being necessarily a strong driver, even though I'm not. I think going low and trying to make it past down the inside for such a long time killed my tires so much here. I mean, it's very bouncy down low. There's a lot of, you know, it's not a smooth surface the more inside you get. And I feel like, you know, we're talking about lap times for the leaders falling into the 25s. Probably still a half second off, but my last lap time was a 25.6. So, you know, lap times are awful right now. I really do feel, and I think Tom Moreno is starting to drop a little bit to me. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I still think, I'm curious what you guys think. Maybe the inside line is what has necessarily killed my tires, because I feel like that's what it was.
Well, I know that the bottom's going to work at some point, but it's probably, you know, is it the first lap? Is it the first 5 laps of the run? But it does look like, as we watched the battle with Bobby Krug here and on board with him, he's making a move on the outside of Ross Cato for 18th position. Certainly, Jonathan, it looks like a race to the top, right? Krug went to squeeze through there, and now behind him, Brian Chambliss going to do the same thing in the 25 car to get around or Cato, I should say, in that 12. It certainly looks like all these drivers mid-pack here, who are in the 25.5s, 25.4s, depending on if they're side-by-side on the lap or not. Certainly preferring to go to the outside. That doesn't mean that Cato's going to get swallowed up here. He's doing a good job of fronting back against Chambliss, but assuming that outside can set up the corner well, they get such a run on exit.
And the other thing is, too, if you're on the bottom, like, and we're talking about if Dylan's running that really, really tight car, if you're going to drift up in to that outside lane, you have to lift on the bottom. You have to give space, as we see Cato and the 25 getting very, very close, and I don't think there's going to be much space given. More, not even 100 laps to go, and Kyle Kamer trying to find a way to go.
Look at that run I just got.
Has that 8 machine. Now he's looking towards the high side. I think everyone's trying to really find a groove and a rhythm right now. No one's really found that perfect line or that perfect way to get around yet.
Things have stabilized a little bit at the front of the field. I know we mentioned about Dansett was chasing down Sam Nieto for the race lead. There's your top 2 on track right now at the moment. The difference is going to be about 0.4 of a second this time by. So Dansett had closed a little bit. Nieto opened it back up to about 5.5, 6/10 of a second or so, and Dansett has been the better car by about 1/10 of a second the last couple of times by. The good news for the race leaders is they're still about a half a track away from dealing with lap traffic, which, if we continue with some long green fry runs, certainly going to be something that is a factor later on. And here's the teammate battle as we pick up the number 32 and the 23 machine. It's Matt Mara in 30th position right now, trying to chase.
I really need a caution.
Up the road in the 32, and we're on board with Matthew with his VR goggles again. Seems to be a popular choice throughout the field here this evening. Fighting side by side with the 81 car of Shane Parrish, who's going to go to the inside, and looks like he'll complete that pass at 2. Can Matt Mara fight back? He's right on that fence at a turn number 2, and by the time he gets the car straightened, you're already in turn number 3, right? I mean, the back straightaway here at Iowa, not that long at all.
No, it's not. And coming out of turn 2 as well is a bit difficult, as the front straightaway is slightly banked, but that back straightaway is a bit more flat. So when you come out of 2 and lose it like Matthew Mara did, going a little tight, that wall comes up ridiculously quickly. And you can tell that 23 is a tight race car right now. And
you can tell when you're starting to go towards the wall, and he still seemed pretty calm on the wheel, wasn't having to make some drastic movement, but again, trying to be as smooth as possible is going to help you keep those tires on this thing into a run. And then further on back, and then one of the festive cars in the field here tonight, that's Steve Durham in the number 10 machine. There's a look at him. You can see quiet on the radio, at least at the moment, using not VR goggles after a streak of drivers who were. Steve started this race in 26th position. He's in 32nd, and is he typing mid-corner up the road? There's issues, though. That is Matt Mara. We had just saw that he struggled in 2, and immediately afterwards, he has the same issue in 4, although this time he smacked the fence.
That could prove really, really costly now. That could be even worse for his wear if he bent any of the toe or if any of the steering is slightly off. Just a light touch on that outside wall, it could make it worse and make that wear go by much quicker than it would on a, you know, a fresh, clean race car.
We'll see if it hurts him. He was already down after starting 29th. He's 32nd at the moment. We'll see what Mara's lap times look like as now the double O machine is into the picture. Again, that is lapped car Garrett Hess. Not a battle for position against Steve Durham there, but of course on fresher tires because he is fresh off of the pit lane after having a blue screen on his computer up the road. How about some 3 wide? Inside is Kamer. The bottom is the 09 of Steven DeBogie. And up top, you've also got, I think that's Kato there in the mix as well in the 12. So a huge pocket of cars here, midfield. Last time we checked in with these guys, they were 5.5 seconds off of the race leader. Now they're 9.5 seconds off of the race leader, but still fighting just as hard as ever.
Sam, where do you want me?
That little incident out of turn 4. Looks like he's got a good way to get around the bottom, even still with these older tires. He's getting to the back of Chainless right now, but they're kind of just stuck in this little rut. If they stay too wide, Kato almost got in the back of Chainless too. If they stay too wide like this, they're really not going to be going anywhere.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
just slowing each other down. I mean, look at this group, though.
Stay high, clear low.
I think the
clear low.
lead car
got
you
one
could say
inside.
is Chainless. This is a
All
group
clear,
of
all
cars, 17th position through 26th. This whole pack of cars, and oh, they're going to touch. It's Krug. The 8 car pushed up, touched the 51, and a great save to keep him in one piece for the moment. Now there's a touch behind for Stanford, who got hit by Michael Kaczynski. They are also fine. And to finish the point, this group of about 12 cars within 1 second of each other seem like they're trying to take each other out now. They
Yeah,
are
one
all
inside.
over each other here mid-pack.
Clear
as we
low,
work lap
clear low.
40.
Got one inside. All clear, all clear.
When you start losing the tire wear and it starts going away and get tighter and tighter, it's harder to race side by side like this. You start drifting up, you start losing control, and I think we just saw it right there. This whole pack lose control is Kamer drifting up into Krug. Kamer's probably working ridiculously hard just to keep that car on the bottom right now, and you can even see it on the entry to the corner. There's not really much the 8 can do, and not really much the 51 can do at the moment.
Stay high.
And
still
he'll
there.
clear him.
Hold your
I mean,
line.
we know that the top was, at least earlier in
All
this
clear,
run,
all
maybe
clear.
the preferred place to be. So you have to guess that Kamer was working real hard there on the bottom. Krug
high.
also with a little bit of damage. I can't tell if there's anything on the
Stay high.
front of that 51
All clear,
machine,
all
but
clear.
definitely has left rear damage.
Yeah,
David
one inside.
Washington in the mix as well. Started
Stay high.
28th. He's up to
Clear on the low
22nd.
side.
That's him
Clear low,
way
clear
up
low.
the hill, fighting side by side with the 19 Machine of Eric Stanford. So wherever you look here at Iowa, there's a battle somewhere on track, and no shock that it's the mid-packers that are going to bowl over each other. You just can't find some separation. The likes of Jones, Kalis, and Kaczynski even fighting. You can see those drivers just behind this group that's too wide for a couple of rows.
Inside. Still there. All clear, all clear.
I am currently the one car getting lapped right now, so I'm getting a very good look at how everybody in the front of the pack is driving. I'll tell you what, they're just really able to drive comfortably going down low to up high. It looks like they're almost drifting in a way. And not to complain about my own car right now, but I still feel terribly tight. I'm sure they do too, but there's still some grip that they all have somehow, and we're even talking... Oh, cuts me off a little bit right there. And if we're even talking about, you know, just drifting the car a little bit through the corner, I feel like they all are able to do that a little more strongly than me. Or I just suck.
Is the thought approaching 1/3 distance that maybe people go for the
Yeah, one
two-stopper, or
inside.
is that just too short and we're going to see kind of everybody get halfway?
On the low side. Clear low, clear low.
You know, I'm just going to stay out myself. My strategy is just stay out until everyone else starts coming in and then hope that there is a yellow. I mean, because I'm not sure how up the field everybody else is, and if I'm the only lapped car on the or the car on the lead lap, the only car that is not on the lead lap that is a lap down. I don't know. At least for me, I'm just going to wait it out and see what happens, and just there's nothing I'm racing for right now except the possibility of getting back on the lead lap, because I am having a bad race on pace, and I didn't think I was earlier. And what happened? I mean, again, I still think as I get into the wall, I still think that it's a lot from going down low. I wasted so much of the grip that I had. I don't know. I really don't know. Kind of lost for an explanation here.
You'll stay in that lucky dog spot for maybe one more lap, because Tom Morano in 33rd about to get put a lap down by the race leaders. There's a bit of side-by-side between the 09 of Vogue and the 03 of Leszczynski, and Morano has pulled over and out of the way for the race leaders, so the number 42 Sletton Company's Ford Mustang now falls into that lucky dog position. Just kind of monitoring the times up front, not a lot changing, so might as well watch these mid-pack guys go at it, elbows up. And, almost 3 wide here with Chambliss thinking about going to the very outside. The 09 clears. They're all going to slide up on each other, and Chambliss going to fight his way to the outside.
I did not think there was enough room between those cars. Oh no, he drifted up into him a little bit, just a little bump. You don't have to come home with a clean race car, just a good finish, I think.
Andrew, stay high, bud.
I mean, they're racing real hard, right? I mean, we talk about, Dylan struggling to keep the tires on it, and it's really pushing. I mean, you would think with how hard these guys at least appear to be driving it, that they'd be doing a lot of the same as up the road a battle. Jeremy Miller now just ahead of Joe Berge.
I think it's that front 13 have had a safe time just kind of running by themselves, saving tires, because you notice when Dylan was getting lapped there was a lot of gaps in between drivers. We saw a huge gap between, what was that, Freenage and Eberhardt, and then another gap between Howe and Tice. Like, there's gaps that are forming. I think the front is being very conservative, while the mid-pack is like, look, we gotta go. We gotta fight. Joe Berge's looking for a fight right now.
When he can to find his way through. Behind them, you can see there is some of those fast cars. Daniel Eberhardt and Michael Laraya side by side in a battle for third. It's Eberhardt on the bottom, Laraya on the outside of the racetrack. And for all of the separation that you've seen amongst the leaders, it's not happening top 5. Right there, that's the 05 Bedanced in second as Eberhardt clears Laraya. And then right there is the 2 of Sam Nieto. So Nieto all race has really never been under fire now that we're past 1/3 distance, 55 down and 95 to go the next time by. But he's never at any point been ultra comfortable, and his advantage at best has been about a half a second. Looking back to Nick Silver, somebody who we haven't talked about much tonight. He started 10th, he runs exactly there, got passed by that 86 car of Dominic Howe earlier. Howe +6 on the night, and it's like Silver wants the spot back.
He was one that went to the high side early, and I think has stayed committed to that high line. He doesn't really want to run the bottom, and I think that maybe helping his tire wear a little bit as we see the 86 getting loose out of that corner. I mentioned turn 2 might be a bit of a
This is
struggle
awful.
with how the banking comes down off the corner, and I think as these tires wear and wear, it's going to be a struggle. But you didn't mention it, that top 5 has closed up, but Andrew Freenage sitting almost 2 seconds behind that group as well.
Yeah, that is the separation.
My God.
Normally it's Freenage and maybe somebody else, right? And then the big gap at Freenage in 5th, 2.9 seconds off. Laraya out the road in 4th, only about 0.8 of a second off of later. Here's a split shot view in that battle for 9th and 10th position. Dominic Howe continuing to work on the inside of the racetrack, but Silver, you mentioned, committed to the outside. And what you can see, looking off of Howe, here comes Silver with the
David,
big
I'll be
run.
up high.
He will go to the inside as there's another driver in tow, and that's Agnew Phillip, who seemingly was pretty poised to have a good result last week at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
I was fighting him.
Position on the grid
I was fighting him for position.
For him, had an incident, lap 1, spun the car out from 4th.
What is wrong with my car?
11 finish. So He rides exactly there, 11.
This isn't.
Right now,
I don't think this
at
is
least maybe
me.
hoping tonight will be a lot less eventful than it was last Monday.
He really showed us too that he's a fighting driver, a fighting spirit that never gave up, and coming back from that heavily damaged car as well. It was not just a little bump we're talking. It was head on, I believe, into turn 7, and a lot of damage. But he's looking right now to break into the top 10. He's been pretty smooth and consistent, and I think Dominic Howe is holding up Nick Silver in the 96 a little bit, or 94, excuse me.
We've seen Philip close the gap a little bit since Silver got to the 86 machine, and again, the 24 seemingly okay with running up on the outside, but run the risk of when you leave the bottom wide open, will Philip drive it in there, and is Silver going to have to be defensive for P10 before he can go on the offense and try to take that number 9 spot back?
Awful.
From Dominic Howe.
Awful.
For perspective, this is about 6.5 seconds off of the race lead. Here's a good run down the back straightaway, but again, by the time you get righted at a 2, you're already in 3. Your exit of turn 2 basically has to be the setup for the next corner. Because if you're a little bit tight, a little bit loose, you don't have time to catch the car and then set up where you want to be. It's 2 seconds tops, it feels like.
Yeah, it's not a lot of time, and I think that's where Nick is really struggling right now. Is he's getting these great runs out of the corner. He's to the back bumper of the 86, and he has nowhere to go with it. And I think now the kicker is there have been some of the slower cars towards the rear of the field that have come down pit road, and Nick is all over that 86, but he doesn't want to come down to the inside.
And a poor lap for Matt Danson. Just watching that timing and scoring at the top of your screen, I just noticed from second position down to 4th in a single lap. So he got passed by both Daniel Epperhart and Michael Laraya. You can see Laraya up the road there. So I don't know what happened with the 05. I don't see any damage, but that was just a really bad lap. 2 laps ago, and Danson, who we were just saying was a couple of tenths off for the race lead, now is at the back of this caboose and dropping quickly, already 1.3 seconds now behind the leader.
Yeah, I need a caution like right now. This is bad. This is my most disappointed. This is the most disappointed I've been so far this season.
I'm wondering if that 05 is just overdriven the tires and is just kind of raced to its limit, trying to keep up with San Vieto. And I think Eberhard and Liara have done a good job saving their tires. Eberhard's really been the class of the field so far in these later stages. He's moved up all the way to second, has that 90 machine. And Danson has fallen off. But the good news is he's still in front of Freenage, and Freenage is still a ways behind.
Not many nights, I mean, Freenage going back to Montreal, of course, not many nights is Freenage just going to be a P5 car. Of course, the 2-time defending champion of this series, but last week did finish 5th at Montreal. That was after leading 19 to 40 laps and having the fastest lap of the race by, a healthy margin over anybody else. In this one, he's just been 5th all night. So the 3-way battle for the lead, the left-hand side of your screen, the right-hand side of your screen, the ongoing fight between Howe and Silver for 10th position on back. But at least for Danson, in 4th, yes, he has dropped. Still ahead of Freenage, but again, that's only a 1-point difference. Even if the roles were reversed, right, and Danson was a P5 car all night and Freenage was 2nd and fell back, this is the night we have to get an advantage. The difference between 4th and 5th is only a point. And I don't think any of these drivers have a bonus point. It's been Nieto all the way. So Danson, you're not going to get much, right? It's only going to be 1
Thank
point.
you.
There is the caution. Lap number 68. It is just shy of halfway. And the 4 of Joe Burgee is the one that's around.
These two are in an intense fight, and like I mentioned, sometimes you just drift up and there's nowhere
Tom,
to go.
did you get the lucky dog?
That 27 took a beeline to the inside wall.
Let's watch it again from high above. It's Joe Burgee and Jeremy Miller.
Hope that was worth holding me up for about
twice,
15 laps there.
A couple of pieces of contact.
I didn't hold anybody up.
Look at that scatter by everyone else in the
Not
field
you.
to avoid that stop number 4 machine. It's a good thing it's a bright yellow on it.
Tom Morano, I think, is going to get the lucky dog here. He was, for some reason, falling back like a rock. And I was a second behind him.
I mean, you turned down
Is he the lucky dog?
I got to your inside, so.
If I do
I
math correctly.
think
Yes. This is Joe Birdie's last one on the lead lap. You're the leaders down pit road.
Everything is
Okay.
Yeah, race leader is going to be down pit road. Let's track this
Yeah,
pit
no,
cycle.
I'll
Not
look at the
not
replay when I
likely
come
to
in,
see any
but-
surprises. Everybody going to go for
That
4
99
tires
car's
and
driving
fuel. We
good.
were just about 7 laps away from halfway
It's a
home. And
42
we expected
car.
some pit stops to happen anyways. So nobody really shocked that the service is going to come here. So this is going to come down to executing
make sure
pit
you
stops
turn up
clean
the
for the race
repair.
leaders around that left-handed bend on the
It's a
inside. A turn
32
number 1.
car.
If they can all execute, and who wins the race to those green cones, that white stripe is where they're going to be scored.
I'm taking the wave around here.
Looks like the 25 has either missed his
road is
box
now open.
or has only received fuel, because he is the first one out. But there goes Sam Nieto. Great job by the 90 machine to keep second place.
I think no changes off of pit road. It looked like everybody in the same order, with the exception, as you mentioned, the 25 of Brian Chambliss, who was way ahead of everybody else, and he did not find his pit stall. Sometimes we'll see Brian and some of the drivers intentionally drive through, but I don't think that was the game plan from 15th on track. I think Chambliss just missed it on pit road. That's the only thing I'm thinking of. I don't think he would intentionally want to miss the stall. Who knows? But dropping from 15th to 29th likely, last of the lead lap, seems a little bit questionable. Dylan Jones was going to get a lap back, but I don't think he will now because he has opted to come down pit road. Dylan, you mentioned you were going to stay out and go for the wave by. Not the only guy. I see Mara, Leszczynski, and Krug out there as well with you, hoping to get laps back.
Yeah, they're an extra lap down. I feel like, well, I'm not going to ask you guys to make a strategy call here, but would I rather be the only car a lap down with fresh tires or on the lead lap with old tires?
You will be swallowed up like no tomorrow if they're running those best laps of 24.2s.
And that's all I need.
Old tires.
That's all I needed.
I would have gone old tires, but on the lead lap, because I feel like they're going to wreck again. But we did go after that first lap incident with literally the cars in last and second to last, green all the way. So who's to say as you're down pit road, and we also see Chambliss now coming back down pit road after missing it. It's going to cost him a ton of positions. Again, he was 15, so I'm curious to see where he will fall to, but it's definitely going to be outside of the top 20.
Yeah, I think the right call for me at least is I didn't know exactly what to do. I think either or would have been an okay option. I feel like the only thing here, as long as I can be the only car a lap down, which can very well happen, or the first car a lap down, then I could potentially, get the lap back. I'll have to watch out for this pace car here. I've got 7 seconds left of optional repairs.
Yeah, the other thing too, like Evan, I know you wanted him to stay up, but if that optional repair was still on that right side, that tire's already pretty worn down. It can make it worse. I've hit the wall tons of times at the 1.5 miles on the right sides, and it will make those right sides bleed. Just any little bit of damage, little rub, anything like that. So I think for Dylan's own safety, it would be best. Because what if we did go green for a while? He's going to be swallowed up whole.
And the safety of everybody else on track.
Well, the other cars definitely need a yellow, right? Because they're going to forego pit service, so you're going to be one of Dick's cars a lap down. It took about 40, 50 laps
coming up top right
for you to get caught and Miranda to get caught, so I think that's your window. And if we go any longer, granted, those cars who stayed out to go from 2 laps down to 1 lap down, so Bergy and Krug, Leszczynski, Mara, they're going to be in a spot where they might have to come down and pit, depending on how long they can go, because, again, they're going to get no service to get back to the tail end of the lead lap. They're catching up down the back straightaway, back up at the front of the field, though. Lights are out on the pace car, and Sam Nieto going to start the second half of this race with 77 laps to go at Iowa. Green flag flies. We're back underway, and here comes Michael Araya.
Okay.
It was a slow start for Eberhard.
Got to get by Krug.
Stop me on the inside if you need to.
The 90 machine this time the restart now is paying the price. He's down to third, and now Freenaj and DeWeese are going to try make him a victim. But now he's got the inside again, and he's trying to get by Matt Danson.
That car is a lap
He
down.
almost drove in to the quarter panel of Matt Danson, who cleared him, had to get out of the throttle, and now Eberhard down to position number 4. Watching the fight for the race lead is the closest they've been to Sam Nieto. He's led all the way, but here comes Lariah. He'll go to the inside in 1 and 2, but he can't make it stick. Nieto in a fight back.
My bad, man.
Straightaway, they'll be
Just
even
completely
at
lost it.
3.
Rise like that outside. He's able to get it done on the
all
inside.
good,
We
man.
see Nieto gets a huge run. He's back to the rear bumper right here. It's going to get dicey again, down into 1.
The new race leader, that's a bonus point for Lariah for leading a single lap. First one led under
Awful.
green by somebody other than Sam Nieto. So the run out of 4 wasn't enough to defend the lead, but it was enough for the crossover. Now it's a role reversal into turn 3. Nieto's going to be the one all the way to the bottom. It's Lariah on the outside, but the 2 car can't clear him off the corner. So the advantage to the 44 again, lap led by Lariah. Nieto tucks in line, and what a restart for the 44. Probably a combination of Eberhard having a poor start on the outside of the front row, and also Lariah having a great run from the inside of that second row. But he was up to second by the time we got to turn 1, made that pass quick, and is instantly about 0.4 of a second ahead of Sam Nieto, who's now going to have to deal with Matt Danson. Also behind him, you mentioned him, Andrew Freitage has gotten around Daniel Eberhard. He is in a race high position 4.
Yeah, it was a beautiful restart by Michael Lariah, and then able to capitalize now by taking the lead. But Nieto has driven a really, really good race, and I think it's going to really show right here as he's going to try and defend from that 05 at Danson. And now a charging number 88 of Freitage. She's been really, really quiet so far. Maybe he can make a little bit of noise here in the second half.
Just seeing if Eberhard can kind of pick it up here, because it was a poor restart, yeah, but it's not been a good, handful of laps since then. You've also got Agnell Phillip, who last time we checked it was 11th. He's up to P6, so there's a lot of drivers in the top half of the field here who really took advantage of that yellow. Remember, the top 4 had checked out by some 3 seconds over everybody else. You throw them under a blanket now, and you are watching the fight for P2. Michael Lariah is driving away now, I think, with the biggest lead we've seen all night at 0.8 of a second over Sam Nieto. That's about double what the 2 car got on one of the best advantages. So battle for the race lead, left-hand side of your screen, right side watching the number 12, Ross Cato, trying to defend 13th position, but in a good fight with the 48 of Darren Winemaster.
To bring it back about that gap that Lariah's put on Nieto, I'm wondering if Nieto has kind of learned from that first stint that he needs to save the tires and try and be better on the long run, because he's kind of realized that Eberhard was really stronger in the late run, and that's maybe why that 90's not really moving up, and that 94 as well of Agnell Phillip was making moves late in the run and was stronger on the long run. So maybe at 2 is just trying to save his tires now, and he's going to wait till that 44 just burns it all out. That flat-out motorsports machine is flat out at the moment. Might pay the price in about 20 laps time.
It seemed like that Nieto was good early in the last run, and they closed in on him late. So it would be interesting for the opposite to happen this run, right? Maybe he learned from that, but he wants to take it a little bit easier now for the speed later. But again, it would be the opposite of the strategy that was employed on that opening run. So that'll be an interesting thing to track. There's the number 98 in David Washington, halfway to the front from where he started 28th. He was in 14th, make it 13th now as he gets around Winemaster. He will not go to Kyle Trudell to get P12 quite yet, as the number 48 car driving it in hard on the inside. And how about Joseph Tice? Haven't talked a ton about that number 1 machine, but it is Dr. Pepper Chevy just a step back in this battle, as he rides right now in position number 16 on track. It has been quite a fall from where he started in 4th.
He was up there early on in the run as well, and I'm wondering again if he was stronger early and just faded late. And you even see the 86 back there who was fighting for P10 is now fighting for P16 and 15. So I'm wondering if these guys, like, if they're struggling at different points in the run because of their different driving styles, and I think they're trying to just make up for lost time now in this mid-pack fight.
A heads up would have been a little bit appreciative.
Bergie's not happy with somebody on the radio. Feels like he got cut off as he's the lead car right now, 1 lap down. So, Dylan, let's check back in. You opted to go for the tires to stay 1 lap down. You're currently 4th, though, of the 6 cars a lap down. How's it been since the restart compared to what you had and the struggles you had on that first run?
I have no idea why I am not. I mean, I don't know. The tires definitely, they're fresh. They feel good. I'm running a little bit more conservatively. I'm not driving as hard into the corners this time. I don't know. This is a difficult race for me to figure out solutions to problems that I'm having. I'm hoping that the gap between myself and the other lap down cars is due to the fact that I am maybe driving a little conservatively and maybe they're burning off a little more. Maybe it's just that I'm taking the wrong lines. Maybe it's that I'm just not good. I'm not sure. This has been a difficult race to understand, I think, for myself here. And I'm hoping to understand it sooner rather than later because we're well past the halfway point here.
And I think just double-checking my numbers, assuming they're correct, Joe Bergie pitted on the same yellow that you did. So he's also on fresh tires and is currently in the Lucky Dog spot, in the number 28 spot. And in theory, Bobby Kook and Varius Leszczynski also pitted, but about 10 laps before the yellow. That's why they were a lap down, or 2 laps down, is because they had already pitted shy of the halfway point. So they aren't on, they're not on 70, at this point, 90 lap old tires. They are slightly older, but not everybody on old tires. As maybe the first one thought, everybody on track has been down to pit road at least once so far in this race. Looking at that number 7 car, that's Kyle Trudell in P12. For the moment, minding his business. But again, David Washington's been trying to get the spot for a while. There's about a half a lane there on the bottom available. Washington opting not to push it. Remember, he is on a 3-week probation due to several bits of contact that happened at Montreal last week. So he needs to be extra careful going through the field because if he causes any incidents, he will get twice the amount of penalty points as anybody else. But so far has been very disciplined, plus 12 positions on his march through the field. That's probably about 4th or 5th best.
Yeah, he's been hard charging through the field. He's been knocking on Kyle Trudell's door, but to no avail. He's not been able to really get around that 7. But the 7 looks like to be a cork in the bottle right now for this midfield.
And I just noticed, looking at my plus and minuses, I figure if we're going to talk about the David Washington plus minus, it would be a crime to not shout out Eric Stanford at least for a moment. He opted not to qualify in this race. There is his spot in P9. He is up 25 positions. And that's, he was about a 15th placed car in practice. So he has exceeded that, rides at a top 10 spot right now, is by far and large the biggest mover. Has been doing a great job, and we haven't talked much about him tonight. Not that that's been as good of a thing as it is normally, right? Sometimes in the races where you have a lot of yellows, not talking about somebody means that they're kind of keeping their nose to the pavement and not getting in trouble. But we had mentioned that it has been a quiet fall for Tice. It's been a quiet rise for Eric Stanford. So definitely some kudos for that plus 25 right now.
We haven't talked about him. We've seen him in some of those shots, in some of those midfield, mid-battle shots, and he seemed to not really lose that much pace compared to the leaders in the long run. So I think he's going to be on the verge of at least a top 10 and maybe a top 5 if he gets lucky. He's trying to get around right now Ellenberg and Deweese. Deweese and Ellenberg both kind of fell off at the end of that first run. So maybe we'll get up to 7th and then go hunt down the leaders.
Do what they can. Again, Deweese, we were real impressed with his Q effort, right? After starting in 2nd spot, Phillips since gotten around him. He's a minus 5 at the moment, but Phillips not that far up the road, so he's committed to the outside. We talked about this split, right, where a lot of cars seem to go to the outside, and even late in the run, kind of vehemently stuck to it. But now he'll slice back to the bottom. He wants to cross over Agonal Phillip, who's going to squeeze him a little bit on the bottom, and get a battle for P6 on track. Phillip maintains.
94 doesn't seem to be too strong early, and I think that may have to do with driving style. You can see he's all the way to the bottom right here. Deweese is going to get a huge run off of turn 4. Maybe he can do something with it again down into 1. But maybe this is time for Deweese to take advantage of a slower 94. And you see ahead of him another car that was good on the late run. Eberhardt is trying to take advantage of a potentially slower Freenage.
And Freenage up to 4th at the start of this run. Actually made a pass on Daniel Eberhard, who started 2nd, but lost that by the time he got to the start-finish line. Now he is trying to come back into his element better later in this run. Freenage and Danson, 1-2 of the points, separated by 1 spot on track, but they're not really close to each other. You can't even see Danson. There he is on that run down the back straightaway. It's about a second difference between those two as Magneto Phillip now down to the bottom, as it looks like Deweese going to get this spot here on the outside. It may not be the only one. John Ellenberg in the 13 truck making moves for Extreme Performance Motorsports. He's almost all the way around on the outside. Another driver who's been quietly hanging out at the back half of the top 10, and good of a point is Indy as we watch one of those XPM cars on track. To remind you that at the end of this one, going to hand out the Extreme Performance Motorsports Underdog of the Race Award. It'll be a $5 bonus to the driver and $5 donated to 3 Square Food Bank. So we'll talk about that more post-race.
Who won that last week?
I have to double check so I don't say the wrong name.
I already feel robbed.
So give me 2 seconds.
I remember
You were
it
in
wasn't
Oh,
consideration.
Yeah, okay.
Speaking of John Ellenberg on track, John Ellenberg was awarded the Underdog of the Race Award from last week.
I was not robbed. You did well.
Well,
There's a
if we
couple.
pick, unfortunately, it's the under. If it was the overdog of the race and we picked the over on your finishing position tonight, we could give you that.
I feel like that's a dig. Is it a dig?
A little bit.
This is awful.
But as long as the Wawa car beats the Sheets car, then I think
That's
they'd
true.
be happy at the end of the night. So it's the little victories.
It's the little victories. I'm 2 seconds away from being lapped down. Another lap down. This is awful.
Should have taken the lead.
Uh,
Take the lead lap back. I said it.
I know.
he was gonna get lapped again though. Like those tires are just not right now. Just the fall off is a second.
You could have at least enjoyed being on the lead lap for 5 minutes, though.
Wow. This is painful. What is with all these short tracks? When's Dega? I want Dega back.
You got a
Evan's
couple
version
weeks.
Evan's version of 7 minutes in heaven is on old tires, getting the wave around back.
Just hanging on for a little bit, right?
I'm
Well,
absolutely...
bigger tracks. Good news, if any, is that the Throwback Series, I think, is at Charlotte this Wednesday. So that's a nice big track.
That's
Spread it
true.
out.
I'm so tired of the short tracks in every series. This is on you.
It's funny, New Hampshire's coming up, which
Ugh.
isn't...
It's a short track in my books.
Mileage-wise, is it a short track? Technically, Iowa's not even a short track when you go by the mileage. But again, when you're doing kind of NASCAR national racing, these B cars, you know, the Grand National Series doesn't go to the small tracks as much. So that's why it's short track heavy this year, because that's what the people want.
23 petting.
Don't ask who they are. That's just the consensus. Working lap 105. We're in the home stretch. In fact, 105 and now 107, all the way up back to the race leaders. So in the home stretch for this race, Michael Araya had at one point, I think, pulled like a second and a
I'll be up
half
high in turn 3.
to the race lead, but the difference now is only 0.6 of a second. He has been 0.2 of a second slower for the last handful of laps than the cars in second and third. So Sam Nieto P2, Matt
Yeah,
Danson
we're not
in
trying to
number
race you,
3
brother.
spot
I think I'm just
are
magnetically
reeling
attracted
that
to your
44
bumper.
car in, and they're doing it fast.
Wondering if that too was to save tires. Michael Araya got a little antsy when he got the lead. And now Danson's looking to the outside, trying to take advantage of Nieto as they're lapping Dylan Coyle. This is going to be a tense fight to the end. I think these two are definitely going to catch Michael Araya. But what can they do to get around him? It's been, you know, difficult to pass because both lines have worked so far. We'll have to see.
Oof. This is a nice view.
Yeah, you got a great view of this. Give us the play-by-play for a lap.
All right. Nieto trying to go down inside of Danson, but unable to do so cleanly. It's hard because both lines are working so well. It's a juxtaposition. Oh, I've got to get out of the way. Another car is coming behind me.
Yeah, that's Daniel Eberhardt coming up the rear. He rides in the 4 spot. Nieto is almost all the way clear, but now fronted back is Matt Danson, and this side-by-side has allowed Lariah to gain a little bit for the first time in quite some time. And it's going to happen here outside of the turn number 2. Matt Danson is clear of Sam Nieto. Doesn't mean the 2's going to give it up, though. He'll drive it in on the bottom. Danson gives him a bit of space, but it's his. Danson now back to second. Can he get to the 44? The gap is 8/10.
Almost more concerned about that.
I'll go up high, Andrew, in next turn.
We were talking about him not really getting a move on. He has dispatched Andrew Freenage and is chasing down these front 3. He's the fastest one on track right now.
Clear low.
And he's going to put a second gap on 5th place. He might be the one to really watch for at the end.
I think my
difference is 1.6 seconds for Eberhardt right now in P4.
I think my goal right now is to just try and enjoy the battles when they come to me. My word, I am that much slower. It's awful.
I mean, I promise you that you'd probably be outpacing me if it.
That's not true.
Is any validation?
I mean, you weren't really outpacing me at North Wilkesboro in that Wednesday race. I also did get 50 laps down. So.
I led laps in that. I thought I had a chance, and then Gary and them kind of put it on me at the end. It was a 3rd place, but survived it, right? I mean, that's
right.
Tonight, I thought would have been a little bit more of a night of survival, guys. We were talking about, what we saw at Richmond earlier this year. And granted, they are different tracks. I don't think you can compare Richmond and Iowa apples to apples, but that was a race with 12 cautions and 200 laps tonight. I think at 2. So the racing, it's been good, but it's been pretty clean for how hard a lot of guys have been driving. So I think it's been a great show tonight, and really
that was scary.
What these drivers have been doing.
Yeah, especially in these tight situations when the cars get tight like this. I kind of noted Agno Phillip falling back into the clutches of this midfield. This midfield getting dicey once again. Here comes Nick Silver. He's so committed to the outside, doesn't even bother looking to the inside.
Go ahead, Joe. I'll give you
One of the best cars on track, by the way. I think Nick Silver needs some love. There's a lot of real good paint schemes in the field. And talking about paint schemes, want to give a shout out to IRAPS, who's powering this 2021 Real Sim Racing Winter Series. IRAPS is changing how you find virtual wraps for iRacing. Go to iraps.shop for more information. Through their website, you can select now pre-designed paint schemes to purchase and customize it to your liking by changing the colors, the sponsors, and more. You can use RSR Winter 20 and iraps.shop, proud title sponsor of the 2021 Real Sim Racing IRAPS Winter Series. So a fun partnership with them that helps us bring this series to you on Race Spot TV every Monday nights. And you can see the IRAPS on the windshield banners of all these cars. So talking about paint schemes, give our friends over at IRAPS some love and encouragement.
This sucks.
IRAPS.shop for more info. Again, that $10 option is really cool because you can get a totally unique paint scheme and make it your colors and your sponsors. But even if you want, IRAPS is known for some great custom stuff. So if you want something totally unique to you, you could reach out to those guys and they will definitely get you hooked up watching this battle between Ellenberg at Silver and Kamer for 9th, 10th, and 11th. 31 laps to go is going to fly by, Jonathan, if this thing stays green to the second half of this race. A couple of drivers have been forced to pit. I know Steve Durham just said that he's coming down pit road, and somebody pitted a few laps ago as well. I assume it was unscheduled. David Washington was in and Matt Mara. So a couple of drivers towards the back have been forced down pit road.
Dominic, I'll go up high next turn.
Related because we made it to lap number 73, and the restart was about 74.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, maybe damage from getting to the outside wall. Maybe a little bit as we see Nick Silver finally has broken up with the high balance. It's a long-term relationship I never thought I'd see end.
I like their
And that beautiful Nickelodeon-style car is going to go down the inside of the 13, but I did mention something about Daniel Eberhardt. He has also dispatched Sam Nieto and is closing quickly on Danson as Silver tries to find the bottom. I think he's just having issues on the bottom. He just can't get around guys.
He's been trying to make this pass, feels like, for 40 laps. as he's been 10th and wants more, and that time by did have a nose in front in a battle for 9th, and now has cleared John Ellenberg for the time being. Of course, Kamer's right there as well, up the road. And Phillip and Eric Stanford are separated by only a 10th of a second as Silver going to go way up the road. That's a slide by Kamer. Wow, he squeezes Ellenberg to the fence. Those are the moments that we have gotten away with a few times tonight. Now they touch in turn 1. Ellenberg getting bullied here as Kamer takes the spot.
Talking about Iowa nice, that is not Iowa nice. I got one. That is not the definition. As Kamer's
All clear.
but bullying the car in the corner as well. He flew it into turn 3, almost into the wall. And now they're gonna have a fast lap car who just got fresh tires behind him. So this is gonna get really dicey, really fast.
But we avoid another one. Curious if Ellenberg wants to repay the favor there. And on board,
All good, man. I'll go up high or low. What do you want me next corner?
For position, that's Matthew Barra, who I mentioned has pitted recently. He's 3 laps
Oops,
down.
a little late.
32nd spot. David Washington has passed Joe Birchie, by the way, for the Lucky Dog spot. That was a pass for 26th and 27th a handful of laps ago.
No problem.
If there were to be a late race yellow in this one, Washington could be the driver to benefit. Washington was, top 15 car mid-race in this one, but has found himself on the back foot, currently running in position number 26. Back up front, though, it is closed in 0.4 of a second, between Lariah, who still leads. That's Danson second. And you caught that 90 machine from 1.6 seconds back. He's only 0.5 back now at the race lead, but he'd have to deal with Danson first, I would assume.
But as you can tell, he's taking no prisoners. He took Freenage and said goodbye, and he passed Sam Nieto and said goodbye to the 2-car, who's run a beautiful race. I do have to commend Sam Nieto. What a brilliant job he did in that first half. But now they're going to hit lap traffic, and it's dense traffic. Look at this mess up ahead. This is going to get dicey for the top 3, especially as Danson and Eberhard are so close together.
Yeah, this could be a deciding factor here is how they navigate the traffic. Morano going to go all the way up to the outside, but look at Danson there. He couldn't get a full run off of the corner because the 42 is there. So here comes Eberhard. Lapped car to the middle. They're going to go 3 wide with the double O, hitting the eject button to get to the apron. And here comes Eberhard now. He'll squeeze Danson to the outside wall. He'll look to clear on the inside in turn number 3. Can Danson get back to the throttle? No, he can't. And Daniel Eberhard slides to P2. Here's the counter, though. It's Danson now crossing to the inside.
Crossover's been so strong out of turn 4, but if these two keep fighting, Michael Lariah gets a little bit of a free pass, but even while fighting, they're still closing in on that 44.
Well, this is happening.
What a boring race.
These cars at the bottom to almost get side by side with the leader. I
can't believe how bad I am.
Of the corner. That time by 21 laps to go. They'll work around lap traffic. That's the number 27 to Jeremy Miller up top. That'll leave us with just 23 cars on the lead lap. And again, now this time it's Eberhard. Slowed down slightly by that lapped car up top, but the 90 is blitzing the field right now. We talked about how slow he was on the restart. He has saved his equipment well and seems primed to fight for the race win.
Now they have a clean track. Now it's a dogfight for at least the time being. It's about 6 seconds up the road to the next lap car. This 90's taking no prisoners, but Matt Danson hasn't been dropped off. He's still hanging around.
If the leaders may come together, if it is a physical battle for the race lead, don't forget about Danson, 4/10 off in third. Then it's a 2-second difference down to Sam Nieto fourth, 2.5 seconds back to Andrew Freenage, where he's been all night in position number 5. So we mentioned 3 different race winners over the course of the first 4 weeks of this. It was Dominic Howell in the opener at Daytona. It was Freenage on the first and only other short course of the year when we went to Richmond. But it's been Danson the last 2 weeks. Neither of them in this immediate battle at the moment. Eberhard tried to bottom that time, didn't work. He'll have 18 more opportunities.
Lariah did show some pace at Richmond and did seem decently strong. He was a bit off strategy, but now this is just a pure on-strategy fight to the end. And Eberhard, again, he's a shark in the water. He's taking no prisoners.
Taking no prey.
Traffic. Exactly, and more traffic up the road there, so it not as thick as what we saw earlier, but could always be a factor. That's where races on long green flag runs are won and lost, right? You have to conserve the car, but at this point, these drivers aren't going to tiptoe through traffic. They're going to be aggressive. And here's Eberhard. He's all over the bumper to the inside. In turn number 3, a side-by-side battle for the lead. Eberhard needs to be able to get off the corner. Good, he does so. Lariah fights back, but now he's alongside him.
Stay side by side for too long. That 03 is going to get in the way, and it's going to complicate everything.
And Eberhard better again. Lariah slow that time at turn 2. He'll do his best to drive it into 3 and 4. He'll be better off the corner, but the 90 of Eberhard pushing up, not yet clear. Where does the 03 go? He'll ride right in the center of the racetrack. Does it cause the 44 some hesitation? Lariah has to lift. The 90 is going to use the lapped car as a pick. And new race leader with 14 laps to go. Daniel Eberhard breaks out in front.
Textbook move by that 90, leaving that 44 out there. And Lashinsky was just holding his line. That's what you're told to do as a lap car. And that 90 not giving the 44 space. Lariah had to check up, and off goes Daniel Eberhard.
And now he
Gary, I'm going to let you go.
Trying to run this one out to the end. He'll have to deal with traffic, but there was no doubt that Daniel Eberhard was the better car. He's on the bottom when everybody else is running the outside. I mean, that had to have been the play. I don't think the slow restart was necessarily by design, Jonathan. Who knows? But it wasn't just dropping from second to third and then very quickly third to fourth afterwards, right? It was the first half of that whole run. He was just slower, went all the way down to fifth, and obviously was playing the long game. We haven't had a yellow since. It paid out for him, and he's 12 laps away from his first win of the year. Maybe an opportunity to get back into that conversation again. You know, you're chasing down Danson, and coming into this evening, Daniel Eberhard was 53 points behind him.
Oh
so
my goodness.
You're going to get the race win if it finishes, but Danson's third, so you're only going to gain 7 points, right? I mean, it's a very long road back to the top of the board. So it may not necessarily be a race, but if you can hang on to this, that gets Daniel Eberhard back into the championship conversation. This is not the Cup Series where you have 30 weeks, ups and downs, abilities to have some bad races and come back to playoffs to even things up at the end of the year. 1, especially 2 bad weeks in this winter series, and it dashes your championship, but at least a statement here for the 90 car, just straight up beating these guys on a long run.
And it's a good recovery drive from last week. You remember, we talked about it earlier, he spun and, you know, teleported out of the center as if he hit the wall and disconnected. And unfortunately, that was his day down, finished well down the order. But this is a nice statement for Eberhard, saying like, hey, I'm still here and I'm still running. And even for Lariah and Nieto, you know, we talked about Freenage and Danson a lot, but those have been the 3 really running the field, have been the 2, the 44, and the 90.
Where do you want me, Daniel?
There's been other drivers that have been close, but nobody, I think, has been able to take that extra step like these cars have. Here could be a big battle for a position and for a big critical point as Andrew Freenage is trying to pass Sam Nieto right now. 2 positions behind Danson. Would in theory give Danson 2 positions or 2 points higher than
I'm beating the Sheets car of Steve Soa 4-1 after this race.
Just another single point interval if he can make a pass on Nieto with 8 laps to go.
No, you didn't beat.
Yeah, Nieto looks like he's struggling right now on that outside line. Freenage is equally struggling on the other side of the racetrack. He's getting up almost into the marbles in turns 3
Michael,
and 4.
you want me high or low?
This could go on to the end of the race now. You know, I'm going to knock on all the wood I can find and hope there is no late race caution for either Eberhard, Lariah, or Danson, because that would really dash some of their chances and maybe give someone like Braxton Reese or Nick Silver a chance at this.
And all these lead cars, in fact, with plenty of tires still available on pit road. I almost said the one and only yellow of the night because the very first one happened on lap 1. We didn't have a chance to really do much, so it almost feels like that lap 5 or lap 6 restart was really just the start of this race. But that middle yellow came just shy of halfway when pit stops were going to happen anyway, so it didn't change the strategy at all. And these drivers were able to use just that one set of tires, at least for the guys up front that haven't had any issues thus far.
That
Freedo's just tried this move several times on the bottom. Now he's trying to go to the outside of Nieto. It's a lot more difficult to do that.
I'm not enjoying the fact that this is happening with them right behind me. This race, man. This race.
Don't be that guy.
I'm going high, guys.
Because
I
Freeno's just driving with authority because he's trying to find a way around the two, and there's just nowhere for him to go.
I wasn't that guy, guys.
There you go. Now you got a better view. It's better to watch him out of the front than the rear view anyways.
Right, but now we've got Joe Bergia. Okay, well, you know what, Joe? Maybe I should race you a little harder because you were on my lap. You are on my lap, but not for much longer.
Noticing
what a dreaded
right
race.
side damage on your car, do you feel like that has contributed, or is that just kind of
I don't.
an added layer?
I think that's an added layer. It came trying to get out of the way of these lapped cars, and actually, I just completely lost control early in this run when I still had a chance to be in the lucky dog spot, and I almost took out the 3 car. We had a nice chuckle about it on the radio, so that's part of the reason. Now, to give you a little bit of insight on where my tires were at the end of the run and what some tires, including maybe my own, might be on this run. 47, 47, 68 from inside to outer on my right front.
He's using them, even though it's a night race. White flag going to be in the air this next time by. You can see another car going to go a lap down. That's Aaron Weinmaster, I believe, being passed up by Daniel Eberhardt. We saw the battle between Friedage and Nieto seemingly sizzle out as the 88 hasn't been able to get any more. And the white flag now in the air for Daniel Eberhardt. It has been a lot of ups and downs for just 4 weeks deep into this Winter Series. Expected to fight for the championship here on Monday nights after he was close to one in the Cup Series this year and be closer than he's ever been. But it's been a little bit of a slow start. It's going to be a step in the right direction and a statement win from Iowa. First win of the Winter Series. Eberhardt captures Iowa.
Nice win, buddy.
Thank you. Y'all have a Merry Christmas this year, and I hope 2021's better for all of us.
What a drive by that 90 machine. Like that restart, we talked about it. He fubbed it a little bit as we're crashing at the start-finish line a little bit.
Good win, Dan.
But that was an excellent drive by Eberhardt. He passed back all those positions he lost, and a really good statement win for that 90 machine.
And the fireworks fly atop the virtual Iowa Speedway.
A good win,
A good win for Daniel Eberhardt as he celebrates on the front straightaway. Far from the first time he's been in real sim racing victory lane. If he sticks around, it'll be far from the last. One of the best drivers in this series, and tonight he was the best on the long run. Played the strategy correctly. He was in the mix all night after starting in P5. But he was better when it mattered the most, makes that car last to the end, and Daniel Eberhardt is your race winner of tonight's IRAPS 150. Let's take a look at your IRAPS full race results. It's Eberhardt with the win, the final margin of victory, 2 seconds ahead of Michael Laraya, P2, and Matt Danson in third. We'll talk with all of
that
those
race was
in just
awful.
A minute, and Nieto and Friedage in the top 5. Braxton DeWeese slides
awful.
to position number 6. It's Nick Silver in 7th, Agnew Phillip 8th, Eric Stanford 25 spots up from where he started, finishing 9th, and Kyle Kamer rounds out the top 10.
John Ellenberg with a nice solid finish in the 13. Shane Parrish didn't really talk about that 81 much. In 12th. Kyle Trudell in 13th.
Why was
Jones, again, another car we
so
really didn't talk
bad?
about, survives to 14th. Brian Chambliss, we saw him stay out of the caution pit, go all the way to the tail end of the field. Comes home 15th. Dominic Howe in 16th. Joseph Tice started towards the front, a disappointing one, I think, for that one car in 17th. Ross Cato in the 12. Cian Kalist in the 43. And Michael Kaczynski round out the top 20.
The rest of the cars in this one going to be off of the lead lap, 1 lap down, all the way through P26. That's going to be James Ross, Aaron Weinmaster, Gary Weaver, David Washington, Jeremy Miller, and Tom Morano. It'll be 2 laps down through 30th, and this is Joe Bergie, Steve Durham, Marius Leschinski, and Bobby Crew.
Rounding out our field of 36, Dylan Coyle, Matthew Mara, Nick Mara, Garrett Hess, who had that opening lap crash, Anibaya in the 09. We saw spin earlier and appeared to have some sort of technical issues, finishing 64 laps down. And Steve Soa after that lap 1 crash, finishing in 36th.
The night's set to forget for some of the drivers at the back here from Iowa, but a very clean and entertaining race. All of a sudden, 5 weeks down, 5 to go. We're halfway through this championship. We'll take a quick opportunity, though, to step aside, and when we come back, we'll talk with your top finishers. Daniel Eberhardt, your race winner from Iowa. You're watching the Real Sim Racing IRAPS Winter Series on RaceSpot TV.
Hey guys.
Was that fun?
No.
Was that fun?
I'm rewatching some of the clips to see where like to just kind of see where everybody was in terms of where their hands were on the wheel. I wonder if I suffered from having a lower steering radius, like where you know how you can set, even on a fixed series, you can set like how much the wheel turns with the wheels. Do you know that, guys?
Maybe.
I remember struggling with that when I raced the fixed series 2,000 years ago.
It was so bad. I just couldn't get the car turn.
10 seconds. 10 seconds. Alright, sounds please.
Channel switched.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to get going from here. That was horrific. Horrific. Oh, it was so bad. Oh, man. That was just such a bad race. I'm so bad. If anyone watched, thank you. Hopefully we'll have a better run next week or Wednesday. That's when the next broadcast is. Take care.